Okay. So this is an assignment called Unit Performance Assessment SQL Pitch. 4 of these documents are ones that you have view status on. One of them is one that you can actually edit yourself. The one that is entitled Unit 1 Game Presentation Loading Performance Task actually describes what the assignment is. It gives a quick overview first, right here. In this unit, you're going to take on the role of game designer by studying the first version of a game. Check, you did that. And envisioning ways to improve this game in a successful sequel. Oh, so that must be what we're about to do next. The objectives are threefold. 1, identify the narrative of the original game, its primary setting, an essential character list, and how these components will be developed in its sequel. All right, so in this class, you already have identified the narrative of the original games. You already have identified the primary settings and the essential character list. So the only part of that will be new is how those things are going to develop in the sequel. That's for ELA. It also says for computer science, you have to describe the gameplay of the original. Well, you should have already been doing that all the past 2 weeks. And you have to describe what the gameplay will be like in the sequel. Okay, so that's the only thing that will be new. For both the original and the sequel, you have to identify who the game is for, how you can tell, and in what ways it either upholds or subverts social constructs. And I think specifically you've been learning about white supremacy and feminism. The final products are a written analysis of both the original game and its sequel that includes all the objectives that are listed above, and your sequel pitch PowerPoint presentation in which you are going to present to the entire CS pathway that includes your evidence of having met all 3 of these objectives above. So there's 3 parts to this assignment as I understand it. 1, I have to identify the story of the original game, my ELA class stuff. 2, I have to identify the gameplay elements of the original game and its sequel. That's my computer science part. And 3, I have to identify how it either upholds or subverts social constructs, both in the original and in my planned sequel. All right, so that's what this document was that described the task. These other documents give you examples of how I've done the same thing for a different game than you all played called Gone North. And it describes there's a copy of the actual place where you can write in your notes. So I want to play the trailer of Gone Home, this different game that's different than any of the games you played. And then I want to explain how I used all these documents to create a presentation similar to this for that game. I'm going to play this only on my device. It's a really short introduction to the game Gone Home.
Dear Katie, I'm sorry I can't be there to see you. I'm just sorry. But please, whatever you might find, don't tell Mom and Dad. I don't want them to know. I don't want anyone to know. Don't be worried, okay? We'll see each other again. Someday.
That's a new game we're gonna play.
So I didn't want to create a sample sequel to Inside or a sample sequel to What Remains of Edith Finch, because then that might stamp on your creativity if you just saw somebody already come up with an idea and give a presentation. So I chose a game that none of you had played, I just played that trailer right there to show you a little bit of context for what MySQL is about. When you open up this document that you all have your own copies on, it's actually like your note-taking preparation for the SQL presentation. You can see the purpose of this tool is to organize your analysis of Inside or Edith Finch. You can choose either one, so you're able to develop a successful SQL. Part 1 of the planning tool walks you through the elements of the current game that you'll need to design yourself for your SQL. Part 2 walks you through a similar process, but rather than deconstructing a current game, you will be constructing your own SQL. Because construction is nonlinear, we encourage you to complete this section in whatever order makes sense for your own narrative development. While the planning tool suggests an order, you're not obligated to follow it. So let's say that I was doing Edith Finch. I would, if I understand this correctly, write down here any notes that I had about the gameplay overview of Edith Finch. So any supporting resources Laporto had me fill out would help me fill out this section for Edith Finch, including what are the starting abilities, what are the challenges you face. Any notes I have in this class might help me fill in that. The second section is my class, and this could literally be copied and pasted over from your close read tool. So the setting descriptions could go in this box. Any overview of the setting can go here. Any overview of the basic characters that you have can go right here. And then your narrative overview can go right here. This one I believe you'll have to be doing for the first time. In what ways does either Edith Finch or Inside uphold or subvert white supremacy and sexism? Your analysis of that would go right here. Then if I continue scrolling down, this is where I start brainstorming. Here I'm going to write in how I think the gameplay is going to change in this new SQL, like how I'm going to add elements to either Edith Finch or Inside. Here I'm going to write what the new setting is, what new characters are involved, plus the old characters that remain, and what the new narrative overview will be. This is the stuff that needs to be made for the first time, and then you need to analyze your own SQL and decide, am I still upholding or am I now subverting white supremacy? Am I upholding or subverting sexism? And that goes here. The final thing I want to show you is how I did that same task for and use this tool for Gone Home. So you'll notice the document's exactly the same. What could be changed here is rather than Edith Finch or Inside, I did this for Gone Home. Sorry about the delays. I'm going to scroll down. All I did was type Gone Home there. The section you'll see on the exemplar that I've already filled in is the stuff that I copied and pasted over from my close read tool. So the setting here is described in this box for the game. The characters that appear in the game are all over here. You can see I chose 5 the same way you were asked to choose 5. Then I wrote a 3-paragraph narrative overview of what happens in that game. I left blank for now because this is not my ELA class and not the task that I've done that. My analysis of whether or not this game subverts or upholds white supremacy and sexism. And then I went on to brainstorming what the new setting is going to be, what characters stay in the story, and what new characters are introduced. You'll see this is actually the only new character I introduced in my game, SQL. And then what the new SQL narrative overview will be. This one, it was harder for me to write as short because I had to write all the ideas that I have for like what's going to happen in the new game. So that was all filled in here. And then the remaining tasks that I have to do is analysis about whether or not this upholds or subverts white supremacy and sexism. So now what we've gone over is what the actual assignment itself is, the document that you're going to use in order to brainstorm or copy and paste in any notes that you have from your different classes about the original games and brainstorm your summary, your ideas for the sequel. And then there's an example from me right here. The remaining documents in here that I'm going to go over, but not today, are the sequel that we're going to use to grade you on this assignment. I'm sorry, the rubric that we're going to use to grade you on this assignment, and how I turned all my notes in the exemplar into an actual PowerPoint sequel presentation. I'm going to stop sharing now. And what I'd like you all to do